China had been ruled by emperors for over 2,000 years, but on this day, October 10th, 1911, it was going to end. The day started like any other. A desire for change was widely felt, but a revolution wasn't expected. There had been various resistant groups that wanted to overthrow the emperor, but they had always been scattered. A few years earlier, they were united by this man, and on October 10th, he was in the United States, completely unaware of what was about to happen. In central China, factions of the army inspired by his cause decided to act on their own. They took up arms against the local viceroy, and surprisingly, they managed to take his residence. The viceroy fled, and a telegram was sent across the country saying that their province was taken. This inspired spontaneous acts of mutiny across the empire. The emperor's last days and the end of China's incredibly long imperial history had begun. This is the fall of the Qing Dynasty with Hindsight. The Qing Dynasty was founded in the 17th century and less than 100 years later became the largest and the most prosperous empire in the world. During this period, the ceramic industry reached a new height. Artistic expression flourished, and the first centuries were stable, peaceful, and prosperous. But their grandeur slowly demised. The ruling class was an ethnic minority. They came from the Manchuria province. The majority of its subjects were Han Chinese, and the population enjoyed a rich diversity of indigenous peoples. But the elites distanced themselves from their subjects. They identified themselves as outsiders that had conquered the Chinese and now subjected them to their rule. This is how they had always ruled, successfully. But in the mid-18th century, the problems began. Their agricultural technology improved. New crops were introduced, and as a result, the population exploded. By the mid-19th century, more than 400 million Chinese inhabited the empire. This led to some of the ruling elites to move to the countryside, where they subjected their rule with an iron fist. These tensions evolved into protests, and these protests evolved into the first underground society to oppose the emperor. The empire began to crack, but was stable. A few decades later, the imperial powers of Europe sought to trade with the Chinese. Great Britain tried to set up a tea trade, but the emperor refused to negotiate. They managed to strike a deal on trading opium just a few years later, and all seemed well. But the emperor provoked the British by burning 20,000 of their bills, and Great Britain declared war. These were the start of the Opium Wars. The Chinese were swiftly defeated. And after they won, the Brits seized control of Hong Kong. They took hundreds of millions of pounds of silver to compensate for the opium that they had lost. And they made the Chinese sign blatantly unfair trade agreements. And in the meantime, to their south, France seized Southeast Asia, and Japan took Taiwan and the Korean Peninsula. And the foreign powers established a sphere of influence to control China's trade. It was 1900. The once mighty and prosperous Qing Dynasty was weak, and everybody felt it. The empress clamped down hard on anybody propagating reform. She was conservative and against modernization. She, as all the emperors before her had always done, positioned herself as an outsider, a conqueror, and partly therefore enjoyed very little loyalty from the ordinary Chinese. Foreign powers were increasing their influence in the empire, and they began to crumble from within. In 1908, Puji became the new emperor. He was only 2 years old, and by 1911, at age 6, he would oversee the greatest demise of the century. After the viceroy fled and Wuchang was captured, the revolutionaries sent telegrams across the country. 18 provinces immediately joined in revolt. The leader of the secret society, completely caught off guard, made his way to China. He arrived only a month later when elections were held, and he was chosen to become the first president of the Republic of China. This moment marked the beginning of the People's Republic of China as we know it today. The emperor stepped down but remained a public figure. Some were hoping to restore the monarchy, and for short periods, they did. But as the years passed by, the desire for restoring the monarchy and rebuilding the dynasty slowly disappeared. Watch one of these two videos next. The video on the left is my personal suggestion, and the one on the right is suggested to you by the YouTube algorithm.